All right, we will call this special board of directors meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. This board is written in supports of land acknowledgement and anti-racism statement. Both are posted on the board's website. Roll call tonight. Keith said he was going to be gone, and I have not heard from Canoe. I think everyone else is here, right? Yep. All right, motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, moving on to announcements. Does anybody have any announcements?
I have an announcement.
Go ahead.
The agenda did not show the hazardous tree capital request as an agenda item, even though it was the request was attached in the agenda packet. So that's why we're just not going to address it tonight, and we'll put it on next week's agenda along with the tree report.
Any other announcements? All right, seeing none, we'll move to property owner comments.
I can get unmuted there. Okay. Yeah, 13 people with us tonight, and I've got a hand raised already from Mitch. Mitch, I'll go ahead and bring you on over here, and you can unmute when you're ready.
There we go. Well, thank you and good evening, directors. A couple of comments. And mostly I'd like to talk to Kim Harris. I mean, the treasurer, our treasurer, most powerful chair of all committees at the association. And I'm hoping that Ms. Harris really assembles a dynamic team in her finance committee. Now, we're 5 months into a 12-month project, but it's important, I believe, and this board packet reflects a very poorly assembled collection of documents, very grammatically challenged. And it just looks like a bunch of stuff thrown against the wall to make it look productive. It's not cohesive. And I would think that as the chair of the finance committee, Ms. Harris, you would bring people to bear to catch these silly little mistakes. And along that line, last week we were talking about sole source contracting, and you spoke up, and then you were cut off. Well, I went through all the documents and policies online. The policy reference does allow $10,000 to be assigned and authorized, but it does not allow for sole source contracting. And this packet that you have appears to have impact design on every project going back to February. I'd like to know, did an RFP go out and we award a design package to impact design? One of the owners being a former city person. We seem to be collecting a lot of former city people here. The other one from a survey company, not casting any aspersions on that, but they seem to have all the design. Is that being competitively bid? Because no one sees any of the contracts really. And so I'd like to ask the finance committee, please step up and be the person who watches the bucks for the association, because that's what we need in a finance committee. And I'm concerned that too many of these documents were written by the board, they get approved by the board, and they get authorized by the board. Where's the finance committee? That's my comments tonight, everyone. Be safe, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mitch.
All
Duly
right.
noted.
Thank you, Mitch. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees at this time. And I have a hand raised from Anne. Anne, I'll go ahead and bring you on over here, and you can unmute when you're ready.
Hi, guys. I just want to make a quick comment. Mr. Waterman really, I know he always has a lot to say, but I'd like to point out that online on social media just yesterday, he was calling a board director Voldemort. It seems to be a fun little thing with their group. So, I mean, I really think that when Mitch talks, it's probably best to take it with a grain of salt and move on. Thanks.
All right.
Damn.
Thank you, Anne. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees as well. All right, we've got another hand raised here from Michael. Michael, okay, I've got you added to the meeting here. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Hi, Mike Wadsworth, 5 Western Lane. I wanted to follow up with Ann's comment also. It's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black with Mr. Waterman. Yeah, so anyhow, I would like to see the community a lot tighter together rather than these factions of constant bickering and arguing. It's about time that they grew up and decided to work together. I'd also like to see better communication. That was what we worked for when we got the group in that came in and replaced the old board, was that we would have better communication and transparency. I'm not seeing it and I'm disappointed. I'd like to see much better communication. I don't ever see any e-blasts. All I hear is rumor and innuendo, and it does not help the community. So I'm actually thinking about running for the board this fall on that platform of being in the communication and being transparent with my neighbors and with my fellow Sudden Valley family here. And there's just a lot of stuff being spread around that nobody knows the truth. And you guys are at the helm and can fix this if you would. You can't just let these rumors fly. There's got to be a way that the board can communicate with the people that you represent. So should be done a lot better. And that's the only disappointment I have so far. Thanks.
All right, thanks,
Michael.
Michael. Okay, and I've returned you to the attendees as well. We do have a board member with their hand raised. Timey?
Kim, I'm just wondering because, I don't have the experience that Mitch has, but rather than answering his question, you said thank you. Could you possibly answer his question?
This is a property owner comment period. We're not obligated to respond to those questions.
Impact Design is a sub-consultant of our project and manager, so
Perhaps we could have said that.
I don't feel obligated to respond to Mitch.
I just thought we were supposed to respond to property owner comments, but that's okay.
I want to know who is
No.
Voldemort.
Well, let's guess.
I have no idea.
I'm wondering about that myself.
What language is
I'll
it?
bet you do. Come on.
All right, we have more hands up, John.
Okay, we've got a hand raised from Leslie here. And Leslie, I've gone ahead and brought you over to the meeting. Go ahead and unmute.
Good evening. I just had a question about the meetings. We have been doing Zoom meetings and GoToMeeting and everything it's been a year and a half now. And we're slowly coming out of this. The governor has reversed his decision for government bodies, and Sun Valley, of course, is not any kind of a government entity, so it doesn't apply here. But we do have our own private rules and regulations that we do need to follow. And the bylaws state that you can meet in closed session or in Zoom meetings in exceptional circumstances. What kind of exceptional circumstances are we still in?
I've already talked to the legal counsel about this, and they've talked with the board about this. We are in a pandemic still.
So we're still considering that this is pandemic and that's why we're doing this. This is still exceptional.
He said it was okay.
Dan
So
has
that's in
his
a
hand
later
up.
agenda item, Leslie. So the board will be discussing that later this evening.
Okay, be anxious to hear what you say. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Leslie. And I've returned you to the attendees at this time, and Linda has her hand raised. We'll go ahead and bring Linda on over, and you can unmute when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
You sure can.
I sent an email to AJ because of something that was written in the pothole memo. And even though I just hope you will discuss it, there's one proposal in there from Huizinga, however you say their name, but there's two other items in there for the rec corridor potholes and additional allowance. Those two amounts of money do not appear to have a contractor assigned to them or to know where you got the bids that represent the $17,000 for that. I hope you'll address that when you're looking at this request. And that's all I got. Thank you.
All right.
Tyler, our project manager, will be here to discuss those capital requests.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. There is a question that's popped up in the chat. I'm not sure if that's something that we would address here, or if you can see that.
That'll be addressed separately. She has a memo that'll be coming to her regarding that issue.
Okay. Anybody else for this first round of property owners comments? There will be another round at the end of the evening. But if you'd like to jump in now, just use raise hand in Zoom and I'll bring you into the meeting. Maybe not at this point.
All right, okay, moving on then. Do we have a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to move into closed session at 7:18 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you guys over there.
That was unanimous.
That was rather abrupt.
Yep. Host has the option to end meeting for all.
just ended it. I was like, did I do something wrong? And I was like, oh no, he ended it. Oh, okay. Cool. I like it.
I was checking my fingers and clickers too. I'm like, what the hell? Fail.
Yeah, the
Easy
host
on the
has the
language
end
there.
meeting for all option. So
Yeah,
that's
an
the route.
expedited
That's
stuff.
the route I decided to go.
Good job, AJ.
Yes. Josh's dog has a really big nose. In fact, that dog is all nose.
Yeah, he's his nose is always running too. He's always on the trail of something. And they say that his breed can like pick up scents that are like 6 weeks, 6 months, or something like that. He's always got his head up in the air.
So he can find someone from years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of like you, Sam. Snooping around.
Okay.
Just before we get started, as I go through these capital requests, I'm going to recommend the motion to the board. My understanding is the board has to move and second it, and then that discussion opens, and that's when Tyler's going to come in and give you guys all the info you need. Correct?
We can just have Tyler maybe just
Okay,
give
cool.
the information first.
All right,
And
cool.
then we can make a motion afterwards.
All right.
All right. Do we have a motion to move back into open session?
We're still waiting on Timey.
We both had the wrong link. It hooked back up to the closed session. She's coming. It took me a second to find the link.
I went ahead and recentered the open session link just to make sure she
Okay.
had it.
All right, I think we're all here now.
All right, we have a motion to move back into open session.
Motion to move back into open session at 8:53 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Board's taking no action as a result of closed session. So moving to new business, we have update for Southern Court. And I believe at this time we're trying to still compile some additional information and dealing with some people who are on vacation. So I think the discussion is probably being moved a couple weeks out, maybe the second meeting of this month.
The second
All right.
meeting, correct? Because this is the second meeting would be next week. But if you're, do you mean the
Second regular meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Just want to clarify for.
All right, we'll move to the roads capital requests, and I'll turn it over to Tyler here to maybe introduce them and go over them.
Okay, the first capital request is for repairing the known potholes on the main roads themselves. And then there's some potholes down at the recreation corridor that didn't get specifically put on the initial chart that was put out for bid. And then there's some other areas. There's a couple that we know of, and we're requesting an allowance just because stuff keeps coming to our attention for different areas in the amount of $12,000 as well. So the request for repairing minor roads and potholes is for $37,207.38. How do I do this, AJ? Do they just do one at a time, or?
Yeah, I think so. probably best to, let questions happen regarding this specific one, and then
AJ,
we'll
did
make
you,
a motion.
did you introduce Tyler? I can't, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Kind of, I guess, but Tyler Andrews is our project management consultant. He is I guess I can let Tyler introduce himself, but
I'm P&W Services, and I do most of Sudden Valley's construction management, assisting with various project needs. We've helped put together these 3 different road proposals that are in front of us here tonight. And if there are any questions, feel free to let me know.
Thanks, Tyler.
Sam?
To what he just brought up, we are looking to approve that so we can put it out to bid. Is that what we're doing?
This has already gone out to bid. We put it out to bid to 4 contractors around the known road potholes at that time. That did not include, like I say, the stuff down at the rec corridor, those potholes going around the barns, because they weren't on the roads, and it wasn't on our drive network that we did that when we did the initial list. So there's a chart included with this that identifies, I'd have to add them up. There's 20 something in the roads anyways that we know of, known potholes spread throughout the community. And that's what we requested proposals from 4 different contractors. And the low contractor is Hazenga Enterprises. And we're recommending that Sudden Valley proceed with them, and that we have them also repair these additional areas that are just equivalent potholes. They were out a couple years ago and did the similar project for Sudden Valley and did a real good job.
Are we just planning on doing, is it just force account work then for those additional areas that weren't put out to bid, or?
No, we would use their unit price in their contract. So on, I think it's page 4 of this one, there's their bid that they submitted to us. So for every square foot of asphalt, they get paid $23.84.
Are there any on this one? All right, I will make a motion that the board of directors approve the allocation of $37,207.38 from the roads reserve fund for costs associated with the 2022 pothole repair project.
Second. That was Josh.
Any other discussion or questions? Call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. All right, I'll pass it back to Tyler to talk about the next one.
The next project, P&W has basically put together, and it goes back, some of these go back a few years, going back to, I believe, 2018 or 19 for a few of the minor road repairs that just haven't been completed. And then the balance of these projects that we've identified in our scope letter have come to light via either some other past Sudden Valley staff emails that were reported issues and not addressed by previous staff, or a lot of these, at least 50% of these, are all areas that were highlighted during the November flood event last year, really bringing it to the association's attention that there's large drainage issues. This project is intended to be a simple in scope, where it's just, we're focusing on ditching, minor culvert replacement, nothing to do with streams or any large road repairs or anything like that. Larger than a pothole, but not large, relatively speaking. Sudden Valley has what's called a programmatic permit with Whatcom County that we acquired 3 years ago now. And all of these projects would be just identified on a list to Whatcom County and completed under what's called a notice of activity. Basically, everything getting a single permit, and it just goes in front of Whatcom County. They review it, make sure there's no large projects proposed, and it would be anticipated that they'd all be approved under one permit. This specific request is identifying that we think the overall project value, what we're proposing here, is about $300,000. At this time, we are requesting the funding to go through and define specific scopes of work at each of these locations. That might be repair this road for 20 feet square here. That might be at the next location, go through and install 200 feet of ditching and some check dams, maybe set a catch basin. Another location might be replace a simple road crossing culvert, take out what's there and put in an identical pipe. And so this money is just to retain impact design to create a single page site plan for each location, and then typical details that would be applied at all of them. Once that is known, we would have an engineer's estimate developed to verify if the $300,000 initial estimate is accurate. We propose bringing that back to the board for overall approval, at which point then we would take those drawings, submit the NOA to Whatcom County, and put it out for bid with contractors. Any questions on that? Kind of a high level review.
Tyler, I'm sorry. How much is that review going to cost?
We're estimating that this review request is up to $16,750. It basically assumes that we'll be on site, myself with impact design, for about 2 days to review all of these locations, get detailed measurements at each one. They'll then spend a few hours on each one creating the site plan that we would need, and then develop the typical details to work with it.
Interesting. How long has this work been needed, would you say, Tyler? Like, how long has this been?
Some of these road repairs have been deferred on previous, for 4 years that I know of. We've identified them.
Nice.
And deferred.
It's
Some
good
of the
to get those
drainage
fixed
stuff
then.
has been known for, one of these locations was previously designed and permitted in 2019 and deferred. So they go back quite a while, but like I say, at least half of them came to my attention here just this last few months after the flood.
Well, thank you. Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
It's like we're good.
I'll move that the board of directors approve funding.
AJ, Sandy has a question.
Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to know, when you do this, is a priority established to address each of the sites so that we would know this week this road would be worked on, or this area or this gate?
Yes, assuming the board moves forward with this project after we've got the design and come back with the engineer's estimate to move the project forward. Once it comes back from bid with the contractor, a schedule would be put together of what sequence these are going to be completed in. They would all be completed this summer as a single project, but the community would be known and there'd be a schedule shared for where the contractor will be working at each location and when.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. I will move that the board of directors approve the allocation of $16,750 from the roads reserve fund for the design and permitting of the 2022 road and drainage notice of activity projects as proposed.
Second.
You could have that one, Brian. That was seconded
Yeah.
by Brian Cope.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. All right, I'll move it back to Tyler for the 2022 roads project.
So this is the larger project that we came in front of the board back in February. The design has been completed for reviewing in Spring Road, Cascade Lane, and Green Hill. The permit application has been submitted to Whatcom County. And at this point, we are asking the board for approval to proceed with the project overall in terms of issuing for bid to contractors. At this point, it has not been put out to bid, and I do not have contractor estimates back. The amounts shown here are engineers' estimates from the engineer impact design. Spring Road is a project that, in my opinion, Sudden Valley has to pursue to complete this year because it takes care of mitigation due to Whatcom County from a past road project in 2017. And Whatcom County has agreed 3 years ago to let Sudden Valley incorporate this into a future project at some point, and that deadline is this year for having it done. So the request for Spring Road to deal with the stormwater mitigation from 2017, and in conjunction with that, it also paves Spring Road. And then the big thing that it does is it gives Sudden Valley a lot of banked stormwater credit, which will allow these other road projects to happen. And there's also going to be a balance of stormwater credit left that can be applied to future projects. Cascade Lane is the next one that is proposed to be completed this year. This is a road that was proposed to get micro-serviced back in 2019 and was not because the quality of the road was too poor overall. And so the proposal this time around is fixing all the poor areas and with a full road replacement, and then in addition, overlaying the overall asphalt to basically give it a new integrity. And there'll be all the utilities will be adjusted to the new grade, and driveways will be accommodated so everything blends out. Green Hill Lane is adjacent to Cascade. It is another one of Sudden Valley's roads that is in pretty poor condition and requires a lot of work to basically rebuild it. It has not previously been it was not a road that was proposed in 2019 for repair, and it is just identified at this point as a road that definitely needs work within Sudden Valley, and it's right next to Cascade Lane. So in terms of proximity and trying to maximize dollars with that, it is put forth as an option for Sudden Valley to proceed with this year. If not, it could be deferred for construction next year, and it will have the permit and stormwater mitigation that's required for it already complete. So all together, if with the potholes, and we assume that the previous road and drainage projects happen, and if we do all three road projects proposed, Sudden Valley would be spending about 1.2 million on roads this year. If that is more than this board wants to spend, then my recommendation would be to defer Green Hill at a later date.
So if
Questions,
we
Sonia?
defer Green Hill, is there some other project like that you would recommend instead of Green Hill?
I recommend that Sudden Valley proceed with the previous project, the miscellaneous drainage improvements and other miscellaneous road repairs that have been deferred. That is a new project basically being proposed by P&W to this board just to try and catch up on a lot of deferred maintenance over the last few years.
Right, but I'm saying like just on these 3 road requests, right, for Cascade Lane, Spring Road, and Green Hill. So we're catching up on everything, and then we do a certain amount of this design work, and we could potentially defer Green Hill to next year. I'm just wondering, is there anything else, or is this the way you would recommend it? The way you've laid it out here? These are the road projects that you would recommend us to do?
I would recommend doing these projects in the order they've been laid out tonight,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sandy?
I don't quite understand the proximity value. Is there a monetary value that you would say we'd save $50,000 if we did the close project at the same time because I already have equipment and stuff there? Is there a value you can place to that proximity value?
Not a defined number at this time anyways. There'd be the economy of scale to where, yes, this equipment that's required and the crews required to complete this project at Green Hill would already be on site at Cascade Lane. And it is basically a street right next door to it. And then generally speaking on projects, as the overall quantities increase, the unit prices usually come down as well. Not substantially, but it is noticeable. So you get a little bit better economy of scale just on doing more roads at once.
Thank you.
But I don't have a specific, you'll save 10,000 or 50,000, whatever that is at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Timing?
Just wondering, because it is more expensive than the other, is it just because the road's longer? Or is it because the road, sorry, talking about Green Hill? Is it because it's just a longer and a bigger area, or is it in worse condition?
It's in worse condition. It requires a lot more of full road reconstruction. Whereas Cascade Lane, the engineers in their evaluation have identified about 20% of the same surface area for rebuild on Cascade Lane versus Green Hill is about 5 times. And then overlay proposed for that one as well.
So if you defer it, is that going to be a lot more expensive next year? Will it deteriorate?
There's a chance that the deteriorated areas will continue to deteriorate, yes. I mean, all of the deteriorated areas generally grow a little bit each year.
Material costs can go up from year to year too.
Correct. Did that answer your question, Tammy?
Yeah, good, thanks, Keller.
Rich, go ahead.
I just wanted to support what Tyler was saying earlier about economies of scale. So if you look at the Cascade Lane road repair maintenance, it shows that the bituminous grinding for 600 square feet is only $25 per. But as soon as you flip the page and you go to the other Green Hill, because it's a lower amount, the per price is $30. So if those two were done simultaneously, you're talking about doing 1,000 plus square yards, possibly at the lower $25 price. So then you're saving $5 per square yard on 450. Plus you probably will get less of this mobilization cost, which is them coming out, paying for gas, setting up, sitting on site, and all this other stuff. In the world that I come from, if you don't have to move the equipment that much farther, then you don't waste that man days or that time mobilizing from your original location all the way back out. And then again, like he was talking about economies of scale, if you're buying more of it all together, the price, you can see right there, based upon doing them separately from the estimate, the price drops $5 if you do them together.
That's correct. And each of these engineers' estimates that are been submitted assume that it's a standalone project and that we're not merging all 3 at this time, just because the board hasn't decided that we're doing all 3.
Would we So the last proposal for the NOA projects and kind of the random drainage and road improvements, would we get that design permitted and bid all of both of these projects together to try to get one contractor in here to do Green Hill, Cascade, Spring Road, plus those other projects, or plus those other miscellaneous?
My
Deferred maintenance.
recommendation at this point would be that the miscellaneous road and drainage projects be handled as a separate contract and put out under a separate bid. And I say that for two reasons. One, the scope of work proposed in these three main road projects here doesn't necessarily have much drainage associated with it. It's a lot of asphalt specific road work. And there's potentially going to be two different contractors looking at these different scopes. The other reason I say that is these three large road projects are ready to go to bid, and we already have permits submitted, and getting those out on the market sooner than later would be beneficial for Sudden Valley in terms of having more contractors available and still getting better pricing than premium summer bid pricing. The other road and drainage project is probably at least a month away from being ready to go out to bid, or about a month away would be the target. And I'm not sure Sudden Valley would save that much of a benefit trying to merge these into one large project with a single contractor.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. I would support doing all three roads. I've personally driven Green Hill a few times, and it's a rough road, and it's steep too. It's one of those gate 3 roads that's got some serious elevation from top to bottom, and so I guess, is there any other discussion or questions?
I just have one, and that's, I guess the county is still going to do Marigold. And will you be moving equipment, coordinating the equipment move between Sudden Valley's contractors and whoever the county drags out here?
The contractor who the county ends up awarding that project to, I don't believe they put it out to bid yet. And there'd be the possibility that same contractor could be bidding on these, or possibly even get these as well. The three large road projects aren't in the same proximity, different gate altogether. So I don't anticipate any issues there. There'd be some minor pass through with the miscellaneous project where there's projects within that same gate access that we'd be driving through their zone, but that's about it. And Whatcom County anticipates having that road flagged there on Marigold and full-time access for all of Sudden Valley residents and businesses.
Okay.
Well, I move that the board of directors approve the allocation of $850,198.54 from the road reserves fund for the 2022 road repair project related to Spring Road, Cascade Lane, and Green Hill Road.
Second.
Anybody have any discussion on that motion? Proposing that we do all three then. Sandy?
I like the fact that we're catching up with projects that were deferred in earlier years, and also being able to bank ahead those. I don't quite understand it, but the points for drainage and other things that will come up in the future. So that's like really good that you're getting rid of old projects that are just getting worse, and you're also banking some of those credits for the future. So I think it's a good idea.
Brian?
This seems like an outgrowth of really sound budgeting that happened last spring. Nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, they'll definitely be curious to know how much additional stormwater credits we'll have left over after the county officially approves that, and what we use up for these 3 roads. 'Cause obviously, we still will have roads that need additional work, so having those credits banked up, like Sandy said, will be a definite benefit, so we don't run into the same situation like we had in 2017, where we're having to plan a separate project to cover treatment for a road project. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? All right, it passes unanimously. All right, moving on to the ADA. We have old business, the ADA design quote. So I think we talked about this at the last board meeting, and we're not totally sure what the cost associated with the work was, and I believe the board got sent an email with that proposal here today. And I think really the only thing that needs to be stated is it's, under our $10,000 purchasing contract threshold for coming out of operations. So yeah, I think at this point, it doesn't necessarily need board approval. That we, based on our current policies, the general manager and a county manager have the authority to execute a contract for that work. But I guess I'd open it up if there's any questions related to that, or. And I think, yeah, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but that'd provide us basically our path forward on dealing with ADA issues related to the playgrounds. Both ones that these are ones that were touched then, or all, or all of them?
No, just the ones that were touched. So there's still 2 parks that haven't been touched and at this point aren't proposed to be touched or evaluated at this point anyways.
Any questions or concerns? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to a discussion on in-person meetings.
Okay, so I actually got the information from the memo a couple weeks ago, but I've been following it since then as well. So in the memo, I talk about what's happened, what's been happening, and there's been some questions because, for example, there's been some relaxation of some of the rules around COVID nationally at the state level. But what I found was when I talked to the Whatcom County Health Department and when I looked at what other agencies are doing, folks are still exhibiting caution. The health department said that last week that they were concerned because we were starting to see rising rates again, and that it's harder to roll things back or harder to re-implement things once you roll them back. In addition, there's issues of vulnerable populations and equal access to public meetings that are at play, as well as some of the board members also have vulnerabilities, as do some of the staff that sometimes would have to be at meetings. In addition, since I wrote this, there's been rising rates locally. So, and in the state. So for example, last week, Grays Harbor, the elementary school there had to shut down completely for 2 days because over 25% of the teachers were infected. More locally, St. Joe's has said that they are no longer allowing more than one person to accompany somebody that's going into their facilities. And I just pulled up something on my other computer. I'm multitasking here, that shows that Whatcom County is one of the highest rates in the state currently, where they've got a map that shows us red. And so the bottom line is that, to me, the recommendation out of the research I've done is that we maintain the status quo. If we look at what other agencies are doing, so for example, the Lake Whatcom Water and Sewer District just voted on April 21st to continue meeting remotely for the foreseeable future. The city of Bellingham is doing the same thing. The county is doing a hybrid meeting, but that's a little bit more challenging with a smaller staff, making sure that we provide something that's fully equitable for everybody. So my recommendation is that we continue with what we're doing for now, and that we kind of keep monitoring every month or two what's happening through the county health department, which I think should be the first place we step to for information, and then see where we are. It may be that rates drop significantly over the summer. That's been past experience, a limited window of experience. So I want to mention that too, but I think, it may be possible over the summer to relax a little bit, or to maybe host an outdoor meeting or something if the weather's good. But there's nothing compelling that says we should drop this right now. And there's a number of reasons I think it would be, it might be concerning. So, but any questions? I'm not sure.
Pass it over to Sam here. Tyler, if you want to take off, you don't have to sit here and listen to us talk about in-person meetings or not.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks,
We appreciate
Tyler.
you coming
Night,
on to
Tyler.
answer
Thanks for
questions.
everything.
Have a great night.
Okay, my turn.
Sam, then Timmy, then Brian. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right, my question is about preparations anyways. So are we still gonna, make plans? Eventually we will get back into those meetings, and now everybody's been using computers. I have checked my little mailbox over there at the office and never seen anything. One day there was a piece of paper there.
Yeah.
But now when we get back to open meetings, will we be, look, we got mics we want to put in front of us again, which is going to require another new fresh setup and make sure we have the internet. Are we going to use computers also, or are we going to do a lot of printing?
We haven't made that determination. I guess I think that when we go back to in person, we would certainly have to do a fair amount of printing, because if people are showing up in person, we should have agenda materials, the agendas and the support materials printed out for audience members that would like to have that. Right now, they can access everything online, but I'm certainly not. I certainly don't think it would be. I don't know what the law would require, but I think an expectation would be that you provide printed materials, because not everybody's going to have a computer access when they come to the in-person meeting. Does that answer your question, Sam?
Timmy.
Obviously, everybody has a different opinion on in person or not in person. I just know that our bylaws do say that we are supposed to be meeting in person. I also know that there's been a number of people that have asked me, when are we going back to in person? So that being said, I just wanted to mention that as of May 2nd, Governor Inslee did rescind COVID orders for public meetings. And also, and I think I called Whatcom Health after you did, Dan, but I did talk to Kelly down there, and she is the person that they referred me to regarding getting back to in person. And she said they have no guidance at this point. All she said was that, people can wear masks if that makes them feel more comfortable, and that, if you have the space, people can keep 6 feet apart. There's a lot, for me, it's nice to just come upstairs, come in my office here, and, be able to go back downstairs again. But I kind of feel, I do feel that it's better for the community that we meet in person. I think there's some people that aren't comfortable with their computers. That being said, we could try to look at a hybrid type of situation, but that's my opinion on it. I mean, we all can have our opinions, but that's mine.
Right.
That's interesting. There seems to be a perception that we don't want to be in person or something like that, which is ridiculous. I'd love to be in person. I'd love to talk to people face to face. However, it's really good that we're being smart as well and protecting vulnerable populations. If there's any way we can go hybrid, I think that would be great. But it's easy for me to go down there. You know, I can just ride my bike down and I'm there. You know, it's a couple miles away, but not that big of a deal, or mile. I don't know. I can take Area Z Trail. Anyway, I can ride my mountain bike down. So yeah, it'd be great to be in person again. And I, you know, like I said, I embrace talking with people face to face. It's so much fun. So much fun being back in the classroom again this quarter. And I think we do need to get back to in person. I think it's better for us. My dog's chiming in. He wants to be in person too. Anyway, that's Walden. So thanks.
Sonia.
So, yeah, I would be curious how that would work for, let's say, well, for, I think that we do need to determine how do we do this as far as an option. Like, let's say, for instance, I know Nancy has said she won't be able to come in person if we do that. So what happens for those board directors that don't feel comfortable coming to those meetings? We're going to have an option, you know, for that. So, I mean, do we know what that is?
Well, there are options. I mean, so it's possible to set up. It's a question of cost, and you know, the cost of the materials. You know, so the internet's infrastructure, for example, so that we could have a large enough screen that somebody could participate and be visible in the group that you know in the to the audience as well as to the other board members, so it would be fairly interactive. And making sure we've got a robust enough internet pipe wherever we do it to make sure that it could handle that. And then make sure that however we do that, that for audience members that can't come in person as well, that we're managing that in an equitable fashion that's aligned with whatever's required for ADA. And all those are things they're gonna incur costs if we do a hybrid model. That's all I'm saying, because it's going to take additional resources in terms of staff time and also in terms of what sort of internet infrastructure we have in terms of, you know, monitors and computers and high-speed lines.
Nancy.
Yeah, we're not going to know if people are vaccinated or any of that, because I can't see Sudden Valley asking for a vaccination certificate at the door, or even asking board members if they're vaccinated or not, and how many of vaccinations they've got. So it's really not comparable to some of the meetings that you read about where they're private meetings, everybody has a card, or everybody tests before they go. We don't know anything about the guy we'd be sitting next to, including fellow board members. Because that's, you know, you don't have to say.
Well, and just in addition to that, I think one of the vulnerabilities that was discovered with COVID that was not known early on is that really it's speaking, especially if we're getting cantankerous with each other, which sometimes happens, that's when you put out more of the droplets that are infectious, as that Quire and Skagit unfortunately discovered. So.
No wrestling matches like we used to have down at the dance barn.
Right. Yeah. So, well, it's just one of those things where, there's things that you don't think about. And it is, and again, I thought it was interesting that Lake Whatcom Water and Sewer District is, they chose to extend indefinitely. And Bellingham has done the same thing. So, we can certainly, as staff, will do whatever you guys decide you want to do. Personally, I don't think that there should be a rush because it is hard to undo things. And we've been through several waves already, and things are rising again right now. And I recognize that people are tired of the restrictions, but the virus doesn't care. So, we can do whatever we want. At the end of the day, I personally choose to mask up for the most part when I'm indoors. Meetings like this, I would hope that we could try to encourage people to keep a reasonable distance. But, if we don't have a good HVAC system and it's a long meeting, it's not going to matter too much.
Right.
So, I mean, those are just the realities. So, is it worth taking the risk? At some point, it probably is. I personally don't think that we're there yet, but it's not my call. It's your call.
Josh?
All right, I'm just spitballing here, so don't judge me too hard. I'd be willing to if I had a laptop. So that means, Timey, you have to join me if you have a laptop. But I mean, a couple of us could go down to the barn sometime and, if it's open, and invite some folks. And, I'm not sure if the parliamentary lords would approve of that, but I mean, I could take a laptop out to the forest right now and be on a Zoom meeting. So, I mean, if you want to get some people together and, and have a little kumbaya type of thing going on to ease into that kind of stuff, I'd always be down to doing something like that. But I'm not sure. Again, this is just probably a stupid idea, but I mean, if there's a way to kind of bridge the gap for people who want to actually see people in person and talk, and also work everything else for those who can't, without getting into this crazy hybrid of jumbotrons and all that kind of stuff, then yeah.
So the only question I have with that, Josh, I don't think it's a bad idea. The problem is we need to make sure that the access is equitable. So if you're having sort of a Sudden Valley sponsored watch party or whatever you want to call it, and some of the people there feel like they're not able to see everybody as well that are on the board, for example, to engage with questions or whatever, then that could become an issue. So it's just things like that you need to pay attention to. I'm not saying it's not doable, and if we certainly have a facility. If the board wanted to try that, we could try that. I think there's a number of issues that would need to be carefully addressed to make sure we stay on the right side of all the powers that be on that. And also,
that's fine. Just throwing it out there. I know it's a lot more complicated than what I just put, but
yeah. And there's liability issues at risk there if we do something, and if we say, okay, we're going to do this, but we're not making sure that, for example, people stay reasonably distant or whatever, and then it becomes a super spreader event like apparently the press club in DC became the other day, then there's a liability issue for us potentially. So
then disposable hazmat suits for everyone.
No, just everybody gets their own bleach to spray themselves with.
All right, cool.
Sonia and Timey.
Well, I would like to see an option for people that don't feel comfortable going and attending. And maybe it's one of those things where we try, maybe John could actually step into this conversation, because he set up the hybrid meeting for the AGM. I do know that it took 2 days to set that up. So John, I mean, I'm wondering, what if maybe the option might be that we are able to do a hybrid meeting once a month, and then do our, like the town hall and the AGM, do those as, also hybrid events, but that, all of the board hopefully will attend at that point. I mean, would that make it easier if we it wasn't every other week, so it wouldn't take up so much time for you to set up a hybrid meeting for each of the board meetings?
And if that's, we can certainly do that if that's what you choose to do. We did it for the AGM. We can replicate that for other meetings. It's not an easy setup, but it's something we can do.
But it'll take a couple of days for every time we do it. It takes you at least a day to.
I think first time out, I probably want to spend some time refreshing and just making sure we got everything tightened down. It would take half a day, ahead of time. It wouldn't really take that long, but there is that setup, that physical setup also that goes into the dance barn. So there is more involved than a Zoom meeting, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Timing.
Well, Josh, I think that's a really interesting idea. I think it really gives us an ability to see what the community wants. I know there was a watch party going on. I believe it was at the fire station by gate 1. So it can be done. And I'll bring my laptop if you bring yours. And, those members that want to come down, those board members that want to come down and be part of that can be part of that. Those like Nancy who are not comfortable at this point can continue to do her regular Zoom. But then we could have, especially if we had a couple of laptops, then when we had our audience participation, we could actually see them. It could be a really interesting way to do a test, see how that goes for a few weeks, and then see what we think. And I know the facility is ADA accessible. It has the ramp, so it would give us, there's that ability. And plus those people who aren't comfortable with computers can come down and just know it's going to be set up and they can talk to who's ever comfortable to be there. And maybe slowly we'll get more and more members down there, board members down there. So that was kind of genius, Josh.
What did you say? No, I'm just kidding.
I said it was genius.
Nancy, were you before me?
You're first, Josh, then Nancy.
Okay. So just real quick, since John is still visible, since we've been in this whatever pandemic thing, I mean, we haven't used any of that equipment really in the dance barn. Do you think, and this is totally different subject, but is there anything that we should look at during this downtime that might enhance our abilities or make your job easier moving forward?
I'd have to take a closer look at everything that's down there and that's set up and try to assess it in that way. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
But I wasn't expecting you to do. I'm just kind of asking the question. I realize how I don't have that in front of me, man.
Let's just whip out some engineering drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be worth looking into,
Absolutely. Yep.
Thanks.
Nancy.
You're muted.
This is starting to sound like a Plessy versus Ferguson issue. That was separate but equal for those of you who aren't into decisions.
I'm so lost on that, Nancy. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Josh getting sleepy. He's just like.
I don't feel good.
Weren't you
That was
around in
probably over my head anyway.
1895 for that decision, Josh?
He was around for Brown versus the Board of Education, I'll bet. They reversed it.
So what if I just, because it's getting late, how about, can I amend the motion? There's not a motion on the table though, is it?
No, I guess I'll just give my 2 cents. I think, well, if you're going to take laptops down to the barn and have like a watch party, we do have to consider what our bandwidth is down there. If there's multiple laptops connecting to a Zoom meeting over the same internet connection, could pose an issue. Those people who come down to the barn wouldn't necessarily have a mechanism to actually speak in the meeting then. Otherwise, we're basically just doing the hybrid thing that we did for the AGM. I would prefer to keep meeting via Zoom, just because while I'm haven't had any symptoms or issues with COVID as of yet, knock on wood, like to keep it that way. But yeah.
So we're required by law, when we have those types of meetings, that people can speak, they can hear and they can participate. So if we're not able to set it up as a hybrid meeting, we actually can't hold those types of meetings. It does have to be, it has to actually have all the elements that took almost 2 days to set up at the last AGM. So
We could potentially have a laptop sitting on the podium for property owner comments, I guess, that would just stream or be Zoom, but just strictly for people who show up in person to speak. And that way the meeting's still conducted fully via Zoom and not this, like, necessarily this hybrid method.
That's what I was thinking when Josh said we can both bring our laptops, one pointed at board members, one pointed away from board members that audience that come could stand in front of, and then when we're not doing audience comments, we'll just close it off.
I guess the question I have is if we're having an audience watch via a laptop that's, 10 or 15 feet away, they're not going to see very much. And if they're coming up close, then you're not keeping distance. So, I mean, again, I think, I understand the desire. My problem is I have friends that are epidemiologists. Like recent studies show that if 1 out of 7 people gets COVID has a cognitive decline of about 10 IQ points. I don't have any to spare, so I'm trying to try to make sure I can still do my job. So there's a lot of health issues that are unknown, and I think putting ourselves out there is, as long as nobody gets sick, it's great. But then people get sick, and there's consequences. So.
Sam?
Well, I think we ought to just cruise through May and then see what the numbers look like and see if there's any chance to go for it after May.
That's what I was gonna say. Let's put a pin in this and see where it gets us, but like keep thinking of things too,
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we continue with Zoom meetings through the month of May and put this on the agenda again at our first meeting in June.
Hey, AJ, before we get to that, should we hear what Rich has to say?
Sure. Does someone want to second that? We can
I'll
still
go ahead and give you a friendly second.
Go ahead, Rich.
I was just gonna say that, while we do that, I think it's a good idea to wait till June, and then in between time we can look up what does hybrid look like, and we can maybe set something up. Actually, do a 15-minute YouTube video of just going through the motions. Me, John, or some of the other staff talking back and forth and seeing how that looks and plays, and then show you that to you guys. You guys are like, okay, that's gonna work, or no, that's not gonna work, or can we do it like this?
Well, and I think in addition to that, Rich, I think that having John look at some of the current deficiencies we have, because, for example, if we do have people bring down their own laptops so they can feel more connected or whatever, I mean, that we make sure that if we need to put in, for example, an additional internet pipe to the barn or something, what that looks like, what the costs are going to be. So we can think about how to set it up so we have the optimum chances for a safe and successful setup down there.
Well, the motion on the table is to address this again at our first June meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that? Opposed? I think everyone was in favor. Timey is opposed. So that passes.
I saw that hand go up, Timey. For in favor. I saw that. Slow. It was a slow, friendly in favor.
You're on mute, Timey.
Yeah, no, it was a very slow, I agree with it.
All right, so that's unanimous then. All right, well, that
Onward
is the end of
progress.
our agenda. So we'll move to the last round of property owner comments.
Yeah, if anybody would like to jump in at this point, we'll bring you to the meeting just by using raise hand in Zoom, which you should be able to find down at the bottom of the screen if you're on a PC or Mac, or on a mobile device. There should be a little menu button, and you should find raise hand in there as well. And I've got a hand raised from Linda. I'll go ahead and bring you on over at this time, Linda. Unmute when you're ready.
Okay, so you guys looked at a lot of roads stuff tonight. And I wanted to ask AJ a specific question. There's a thing to be done in 2022, the CIP plan. And I thought you did an RFQ for that to get somebody to come out and give us an updated road plan. Did that ever get turned into a capital memo and anybody ever respond to that?
I haven't had I dealt with some personal things that didn't really allow me to get that wrapped up, but it is on my schedule of things to take care of here over the next month or so. So I'm hoping to bring back a candidate before the board to move that forward. Yeah. But no, it hasn't been moved forward yet. I did the RFQ was posted, and there was two proposals submitted. So
Okay, I'm just trying to look at what's still hanging out there, and I'll try and get through this. You've got this whole thing where there's 250,000 for the marina parking. That's not part of this thing that is being proposed for potholing and stuff that is in the NOA, is it? Because he has the marina parking lot.
oh, he's just doing grading work, I believe.
Okay, I just, I don't know what, like I say, I don't know what the reconfiguration is, but, it might be better to do it all at once than not at all, than to have a conflict there. There's a couple of projects like that. The other thing I wanted to ask, though, is there's culverts to be done. One to be built, so it looks like we've already designed it, and another one that's supposed to be designed. Are those gonna be brought forward this year?
I am not sure.
Okay. And then last but not least, there's CBC, which hasn't been discussed yet.
Nope. I think we'll probably be looking for our new maintenance superintendent with Rich and Dan to bring something forward for that here.
All right, it's starting to get into the season, and I don't know where we are with staff. Last time
could be used to contract too.
Yeah, I'm just saying those are the things outstanding. That's all I have. I just wondered where we were with all the other stuff that's sitting in the roads program.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
All right. Thanks, Linda. All right. And I've moved you back to the attendees. And if anybody else would like to jump in, we've got 11 more people. You can jump in for property owners' comments just by using raise hand in Zoom.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn at 9:54 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?